Hello my fellow presenters. Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about how you can make sure that you get your whole deposit back. I'm not being over the top when I say that landlords and estate agents will really, in most cases, look for excuses to not give you your whole deposit back. Often people can be blindsided, banking on that money, perhaps to use that towards their next deposit for when they're moving. And particularly in London, where the living costs are really high, you want to make sure that you put measures in place to get all of your deposit back. Unfortunately, they are really stringent and it is quite a bit of administration and back and forth. So in this video, I'm going to show you what I went through in terms of getting my deposit back, things that I put in place and things that you can make sure that you do as well. The first thing that I would really advocate for is that you get your apartment, your house, or if you're in a shared house, make sure that you get it deep cleaned. Do a deep clean and don't try and do it yourself. Hire somebody that's professional. Yes, that will have a knock-on effect on the perhaps on you getting, that might eat into the kind of costs of you getting the deposit back. But most landlords and estate agents will give you a property after having had it deep cleaned. So you need to make sure that you do the same, and I think it's best that you get professionals in to do that. I actually also would really advocate that you make sure that you have like 2 days where you've moved your stuff out, you've cleared the space, it's an open space, and then you can allow the cleaners to do their work. That's really important as well, so they're not having to put things out of the way and push things to the side, just so that no areas get missed. That does mean paying 2 days overlap, but most people have to do that, and that's part of moving costs because you want to make sure that you get all of your deposit back. So that's the first thing. Make sure you get a deep clean. I was really fortunate with mine that I was really happy with the work that I did. The other thing that I would say is don't just say, oh, here are the keys, off you go, and then come back at the end. I made a point of coming back sort of periodically. I'll go off and get a coffee just to check that they had done everything. I really made sure that they went into the bathroom and did the kind of shower base and just all of the areas as possible, and gone into the cupboards and so forth. And thank goodness that I did, because that brings me to my next point. Number 2, make sure that if you see any any obvious points of wear and tear, that you report this. So on the kitchen cupboards in my flat, and I'm leaving a video running so that you can see the flat that I lived in. I'll also leave a link to my previous video where I gave a tour of my tiny snug studio with the pull down bed, so that you can get a sense of how I lived in that space. Anyway, in the kitchen cupboard, there was there was something that would peel off of the sides, the laminate, and it's just general wear and tear. But I reported that, and thank goodness that I did, because they said thanks for letting us know, because they often then try to say, oh, okay, well that needs fixing. And wear and tear is a real grey area, because if you damage the property, that's your responsibility. But sometimes it is the case that, oh, this is just general wear and tear. I had been in this property for 3 years. There was going to be wear and tear. And fortunately, my property manager was really reasonable about this. But I've also heard a lot of horror stories. So you really do have to document everything. Another thing is I had a microwave breakdown, and I remember, as I had sort of handed the keys back, getting a call back saying, oh, there's no microwave. But I said, no, I did ask for the microwave to be replaced, and they even sent an electrician to see it because the bulbs were flashing. So they also had a look at the microwave, and they said, oh, actually the landlords are not going to provide that for you. So then I had to kind of replace that myself, which I was fine to do because I've moved that with me into my new place. Looking forward to telling you about my new place in a new video, by the way. So yeah, but then equally the property manager that had taken over, the previous staff member had left. I had to tell her that no, that was there because they wanted to make me liable for the microwave. And also just be wary of where things are. Another thing that came up on the report, the checkout report, is that the kettle was missing, but the deep the cleaners that had done the deep clean had just put that in a cupboard so that it was out the way, so that they could really do the surface. Also, make sure that they do areas like the oven and a deep clean into the fridge and freezer. If there's a freezer compartment, really defrost that overnight. It all takes time, but you have to make sure that you do all of that properly. Moving is a faff. I don't like moving. Not many people do, but make sure you put all these things in place and give yourself a couple of days where you're in your new place and you can move backwards and forwards and check on things. Okay, that brings me to my next point, is the checkout report correspondence. Be speedy on this and make sure that you are timely, because I did not get my deposit paid. I had to really, well, I did, but I had to really prompt them and say, oh, has payment been made yet? I've responded to this point, and really communicate, because often the landlord holds the fees, or the estate agent holds the fees, so then they release this back to you. And you have to really prompt them, because obviously if you don't pay your rent on time, they'll be like, where's this? But when it's your money, you have to really be proactive with this. I mean, I've always paid on time, but I'm just giving you an example of how it works. So, okay, let's go to my checkout report. So whenever you move into a property, you'll often particularly with an estate agent, often they will hire what they say is an independent third party, although often they've got a good business relationship with them because they use them often. And they will take pictures of the property and say, right, this is the condition it's in, and this is the condition we expect it when you move out. Obviously, it's difficult when there's wear and tear. When I moved out after 3 years, it hadn't been painted. It did need to be repainted, and the landlord knew this as well. So there were things like that needed to account for. I was living in a really small space. One of the things they said was, oh, the electric key meter is not there. And I said, well, it's really small because it's on a top-up meter. I had put it in the upstairs cupboard where it was before. The microwave I already mentioned. They said that I had walked off with the ironing board, and I thought, are you kidding me? I never actually even used the ironing board because it's just a faff. I think sometimes when you put clothes out, it just straightens itself on the hanger, no? Or if you use a shirt, maybe just go home to mum's and then just see if you can get that done. I mean, who does that? I mean, I try to avoid wearing shirts a lot if I can. Like, I think a nice smart jacket with a t-shirt underneath. I like that. I do like a good shirt. I need to get maybe one of those shirts that you don't have to iron, because it's just a process. Anyways, I digress. So I then had to look through a video that I had done, and I then I saw, the ironing board's there because it was just above the top cupboard and it's really thin and easy to miss. So then I sent a picture of that. So that was the next thing I did after then having dug out my correspondence with the microwave. The kettle, I thought, goodness, where is the kettle? But I then spoke to the cleaners. They were like, we've put that in the cupboard. So that was done. In the bathroom, they tried to say that there were recessed spotlights and one's not working. And I said, well, that's not down to me, because normally changing a bulb is pretty straightforward. But because this studio is so snug, these bulbs aren't ones that I can just clip out. They need a professional workman to come in and take them out, because everything's fitted on a circuit and it's really, really small. It's not got the clip out. And they knew that, and that's not down to me. I remember when my bulbs were flashing, this was like a year into me living there, and I had to get them to come and look at it. And when they put the new bulbs in, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's fine. This will last you until you leave. Maybe they didn't realise I was going to be there for another 2 years. They thought, you're not going to want to be in this place long. But listen, London is rife. It's really difficult to get a stable home, and I try to avoid the faff of moving for a long time. So yes, I had to give them that. I then said, look, that's not down to me, because that I don't even use the electricity that much. I'm quite conscious, but that is what that is. That's not down to me. And she agreed, the property manager. But they just put that on the report by protocol. The sink, they said that the tap's slightly loose. And I said, well, it might be slightly loose, but it works. I've been there for 3 years. I've never had an issue with the tap. The other thing was they said that one shelf has come out of the bracket with above the washing machine, which probably you would have seen on the video that I'm playing on the side. But I actually had to have a new washing machine put in because it was such a pain. They asked me to really test out, or make sure that there's nothing of yours stuck in there, and when you have to put the towels on the floor, and then just put like something in the spinner thing to see if any residue or anything of yours is stuck in there, and it wasn't. It was just at the end of its tether. So I had to do all that. Bathroom and windows. This was an interesting one. They said that the windows don't open. Well, I was always told never open the window in the bathroom because it kind of faces onto a brick wall. It was just like really snug. And the thing with the windows is we were in the depths of winter, and these are old sash windows. You have to really tug them to open this. And I mentioned to her that the windows are really old, and the property itself has a low E rating. So because these are single glazed windows, and so you really do just have to tug them. So I sort of had to convey that as well. And I had to write out all these points, as well as follow this up with a phone call, and then chase, when my deposit's being back, I think when they're deliberating the decision. The property manager, she was quite firm, I think, with the landlord to say, look, nothing can be given back. This is all down to wear and tear, and anything else I had communicated. Now, something I want to kind of point out and to a lot of people is there'll be a lot of people thinking, another year's gone by in this property and they've not upped my rent, but I've got this issue with the property. I don't want to draw attention to it because I'm nervous about them realising, a year's gone by, we need to up your rent again. And I understand that anxiety. It's really difficult, particularly when you're trying to grow your freelancer business and think, how can you scale things up and then not just kind of be hit with an extra cost that you then have to find and cover. But when something does come up, really kind of say, well, look, this is, if the washing machine's not working, I need to use the washing machine. I don't want to be taking that to, walking half an hour to this laundrette and pay £15 to get all that done. I mean, that's just really expensive and time consuming, and it's not productive. So just communicate that and say, look, anything else, and just make them aware. The other thing is you can always say, oh, look, this has happened. This one bulb's gone. I just want to communicate with you that this, for some reason, is not working. I'm happy as it is because I've got a lot of light. But perhaps if another one does, I think that might be a point to just communicate that with you. And often it's useful because I can just communicate this with the property manager, and then hope that there's not going to be flagged of, okay, your rent needs to go up. I had something before where the shower would leak, and then they looked at that, and I remember being nervous about communicating that, which you shouldn't be, and I think a lot of people that are renters are. So I got my whole deposit back. Something else that I want to point out on here is what I call the give and take mantra. Now, as I was moving out, and luckily everything timed okay, or just timed in such good sync, I was asked, Ken, we need access to the property because we need the energy certificate to be updated and we need this to be done. And often I'd say, okay, yeah, I'll make time to do that. Let me know. Or, okay, I've been here the whole time. No one's come. Can you communicate that with me? But the point I'm making there is, I think by me being helpful to the property manager and saying, look, I will accommodate this, I'll do this, then a little bit they will try and vouch for you and say, look, he's been reasonable, he's been cooperative, he's helped us out. So just think about that and sometimes remind them of that if you have to. I said, look, I've been there for 3 years, I've always paid my rent on time. These things have been sort of wear and tear, and the odd things that have happened, like with the washing machine not working, but I've really tried to keep communication minimal and just sort of, not be so much hassle, which to some extent some people might say, well, look, we shouldn't have to feel like this, we should be able to call this out. But if that's been the case for you, you can point that out and say, look, I've done this, I've made sure. Also with the viewings, have you made sure that you've accommodated viewings where you can? I did just sort of say, well, look, I work in the evenings. I don't appreciate, at 8 in the morning before somebody goes to work, viewing. It's a bit chaotic for me, because if I'm then got a booking that day, I just want to be getting ready. I don't want to be thinking about that. And then also I did actually help with the tour and say, well, look, this is how you live here and so forth. This is a great way of using the space. Use the wall areas, and there you go. Or the wall areas that I mentioned in the previous video. The other thing I want to say to make sure that you don't get caught out is, you might think, oh, I don't need something in the new property I'm moving into. I'm going to leave this there for the new tenant. That will be nice for them, and they can decide if they want it. I remember I had door hooks that just go over the door, so they're not installed, so that's really good. And I remembered I also had like the wall areas, because there's not space to really hang out your washing on an open area, because you've got limited floor space. So I put them on the windows, and they would sit on the windows really nicely, and you'd see them in my old videos, and my videos there just didn't look so good because of that backdrop, because I was limited for space, but in a good location, mind. But the point I'm making there is, ask them, would they like that there? Because they said, yeah, you're supposed to take everything out, because otherwise we will charge you to remove it. And they will, even though they could just dispose of it, there's like a disposable thing up the road, but they will often find a charge. So it's good that I communicated that before. Communicate, would you like your new tenant to have this? And actually sometimes they thought, oh, that would be quite useful, thank you. And then that's another thing that you've done that works in their favor, but another thing that you've checked to make sure that they're not going to look to charge you for. So those are the things that I would say is, make sure you get a deep clean, make sure you communicate anything as you see it, the give and take principle. Check that you make sure that you take a video of everything in the property as you leave, just the condition as it is. So that's how you remember it from the deep clean, and take pictures for yourself as well. So you can say, look, this is all in there. And also make sure that you get a receipt from the deep clean. And I sent them a receipt and said, look, that I had spent this as well. So I had made sure that it's to a good standard. Once all those things are done, it shows that you've, really tried to make the handover process smooth. They really should not be able to have any excuse to take anything off. The wear and tear is the grey area, so use the time that you've been there, use the history that you've had with them, and the kind of tenant that you've been. That's all really important. So don't get caught out about this, guys. If anybody has any similar anecdotes, let me know. I'd be interested in your thoughts. If you think, goodness, they were so stringent and nitpicky on the report, and checking everything. Do you think it was just so over the top? I'd like to know if you've managed to get your deposit back. I was lucky in the third place that I rented in London after university that I didn't have to pay a deposit, so it was just a sublet, and that was a really great rental that I had there. So do let me know. Don't be afraid to move on to your next chapter. Get your money back and keep going, keep hustling, and keep pursuing whatever it is that you're pursuing. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.